Hello, Jamie from Inky&Scrappy back with a new creation for Craft Roulette number 286. So I'm pulling in some new to me stuff. Well, it's not very new. I've had it for almost a year. I picked it up last year after the day after Thanksgiving. My sister-in-law and I went to Craft Stamp and Storage. They have a craft store in there. It's called Stamp and Storage. They only are open like Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays. And so it's limited hours, but, you know, we're about an hour away. So I'm like, well, they have grab bags, so let's go. So she's new to stamping, so of course she grabbed a couple of grab bags just, you know, because she's just starting. And I grabbed one grab bag. It might have been the most expensive grab bag, but I thought it would be fun. I'm a sucker for a good grab bag, not gonna lie. They get me every time. But so this one had, and they were wonderful thought out grab bags because they were all like color coordinated stuff that you could use all together. And so it was, you know, it was fun. So I've sat it off to the side and finally getting around to using it and, you know, playing with it. So the 49 and Market papers were just, I think they're just absolutely gorgeous. So I kind of like picked through, kind of figured out what maybe I could use for some of my images. I was planning on doing a collage style card, and so that was kind of where I knew I was going with it. So I was just kind of seeing what was available in the paper pad stuff and the other, kind of trying to pick out my colors. So the set, the grab bag also came with like some of their storage pockets, which they're really nice, and storage magnets. I'm trying to think what else was in there. Some Karen markers were in there, but they have a lot of different, they have Altenew, and this is my first and only Altenew sets that I have, are these three right here. I liked them. They're just, you know, not something I would normally grab. I absolutely adore the Picture Perfect picture frame, like the frame in that one, and I did continue to use it like on 2 or 3 more cards after this one. And then of course I was using a lot of the same elements because I was trying to use up some of the leaves that I had already die cut out and such. I will list them, I will show them on my Instagram. I don't know, they're not on my camera, so I can't add them to this video. They're on my phone, so if I can get them to add onto the community tab, I will try to get that done after this video loads. So I grabbed a piece of cardstock. So this is probably 100-pound weight Nina Classic Crest Solar White cardstock. And then I'm just grabbing some Distress Oxide inks. I'm just going to ink up the whole panel. So this is a half sheet, of course, cut the long way instead of the short way. So you get that long, narrow panel. And so I just decided I was going to ink blend my whole color scheme or palette onto this one and just kind of make one really long patterned paper. It looks a lot blotchier on camera. I don't understand why it looks so blotchy on paper, but once it's dried back, it's, I mean, the blend is like seamless on this, so I can't really help you on that one. So I started with mustard seed, went on to marigolds, whatever marigold is, I think, or wild honey. And then of course just working that blend. And then my darkest, of course, was the aged mahogany, which is probably one of my favorite shades. I love jewel tones. My wedding colors were jewel tones, so it shouldn't be a surprise that I love the bright, bold colors. I love all colors. I've been in, yeah, you know, it is what it is, right? So, and then for my greens, I went with, I think, peeled paint. I think it was peeled paint. Yes, because it was darker. I was going to say shabby shutters, but that's not right. So peeled paint. And then, of course, I brought in the moss. Forest moss. Is that what that one's called? The forest moss color for that deeper, darker green. And then just kind of adding, blending, kind of trying to get a more seamless blend. It doesn't really matter, to be honest, for the most part. I mean, I kind of wanted it to have a nice blend, but I wasn't overly worried about it because I'm going to run it through the die cut machine anyways with the leaf plate. it's like called the no waste. Is that what they're called? Like they're no waste die cuts. Oh, black soot. That was the other parameter. I couldn't remember. So black soot ink on this one, I'm going to splatter it. I used the black soot throughout just to kind of add some distress and some character to my card. And as a whole, I had to speed up this one a lot because I took a long time to splatter it. I wanted little tiny splatters because I'm going to use that die cut, and I didn't want big blobs, but I also wanted to make sure that it had a lot of little splatters on it. I think it just adds a lot of detail and, you know, to those die cuts without a lot of extra work after the fact. Like I don't have to go in with the blending brush. Do I go in with the blending brush and add some more black soot to things? Yes, but it wasn't like I needed to do it. So for my stamped image that's going to fit inside that picture frame, I picked up a really cheap crow set from Amazon. You see how well it stamps here. It's a silicone set. I looked for, like, I'm pretty sure they just take clip art and make crappy stamps with them. I just wanted some crow stamps. There was a good variety in there. It was like $5, and so it works. I'll list it down below. It's not the greatest stamp set. Definitely probably not for dye style ink. The pigment ink stamped okay with it. Just keep that in mind. I did bring in my Distress watercolor pencils and kind of added some highlight colors. I didn't spend a lot of time coloring it. I just wanted to kind of match the colors that I was using, and I was using sunflower colors, so the yellows and the oranges and the reds, like that aged mahogany red kind of color was kind of where my sunflower garden was. Of course, the greens and the browns and the blacks on the leaves and the seeds and stuff. But so that was kind of how I did this one. I kind of added a little bit of greenery to it, and then I did end up like coloring in the whole background with a very, I think it was weathered wood. I think is what I ended up using for kind of like the background. I probably wouldn't have needed to go into that much detail with it, but you know, sometimes it's just fun to play, and that's really what I was doing. I haven't just played for a while when it came to like my craft lab stuff or my craft area, just creating in general. I've, you know, kind of gone in with a plan, and this one I just was like, I'm gonna do something totally not me and do, you know, I haven't done collage in a long time. I do it once in a blue moon, and it was just time to kind of hit it again. But it was kind of fun to add in all the little details, all the little things, and, you know, just kind of enjoy the process again. I think sometimes I overthink things for sure, and not, you know, like, oh, I need a card for this or I need a card for that, and realizing sometimes that puts an added pressure on us when we're creating, and I don't think we even visibly or like put it into words, but I think it affects sometimes what we're doing. I did have like a stack of cards I needed to get done. This one I think will go out to, I don't think this one has a home. I did some other ones that kind of went with the same theme, like using up some of the pieces that I knew one was going to go to, I need to return a card to somebody, and then of course, you know, the other ones. This one's still sitting on my desk, so is the other one, because we all know I suck at mailing things out. It is what it is. So I brought my frame back in, kind of measured it. I want it to be a little bit bigger than that frame opening, but small enough that you really don't see that white on the sides where those holes are. So I'm just going to try to slowly cut it down. Yes, I could measure it, but I don't measure if I don't have to. I like to wing it for the most part. And so once I was happy that it was going to fit where it was supposed to fit without going over all the things, I'm going to ink up my sides. Just add a little bit of black soot to the sides here. It just kind of adds I didn't color my background the greatest, And this just kind of adds a layer of I don't want to say spooky, but kind of a layer of spooky. It just kind of gives it, I don't know, what I would think of in a slide, right? Because that's kind of what it is. A slide or a film strip. Kind of that blackish, sooty look. I don't know. Did anyone else take, like, I'm trying to think. I think it was called In Principles of Technology or Intro to Technology or something like that in like 7th grade. And we had a actual photography portion that we could do. Like, not everyone did it. I did it. I love photography in general, and I loved it all the way back then. But we learned how to do like all of it, like developing the film, black and white film, printing it, like all of it in the darkroom. It was fun. I love all of those things. Yeah. See, I already had way too many hobbies and I was only in 7th grade. It happens. I did decide to pop this one up, so I'm bringing in the little 1/8 inch thick foam tape from, I think this one is scrapbooks.com. And I just kind of put it on both of the sides here, and then I'm going to try to make it so it fits on there and not hanging out, so you can't see it when it's on the piece of paper. If I'd had a black one, I would have used a black one. I just ordered some black ones because I realized that for things like this, having the black ones would be nice because it would not show like a sore thumb like the white does on this one when it hangs out. So I did add a couple more. I think these ones possibly were just that 1 millimeter thick. They're really tiny, like thin. So they're super thin. It doesn't add a whole lot of bulk, it just adds a little bit of a pop. And so if you're looking for a little bit of a pop, I think they have them in 1 millimeter, 2 millimeter, and 3 millimeter. The 3 millimeter ones are really nice for shaker style things. And then of course the 2 is kind of your generic size foam. But I like the thin one just because it doesn't add as much bulk and it makes it a little bit easier to add multiple layers and mail. So I'm just kind of playing with my placement on this one. Of course, I may have been also on Crafty Chat with a friend, so you see me pause and, you know, it's sped up, but obviously I was probably yapping and not, you know, paying attention to what I was doing. It happens. So for this one, I brought in the thicker one. I think I ended up with the 2 millimeter one on this one. It's just nice because that first one gives a little bit of a pop, but it's not a whole lot, so you don't have a whole lot of pop on that one, but you have just a little bit. So for me, this is the hardest part, trying to kind of make an arrangement with all of my pieces. I kind of want to do make sure my colors are not right next to each other. I did end up pausing the video, sorting everything out in size, and that way it was easier to just kind of grab colors and not so much like trying to dig through that pile of all of the cutout leaves. But look at how gorgeous that blended paper ended up turning out into some gorgeous fall leaves, and you have such a nice variety that it made it a lot of fun to just kind of figure out how to layer things, adding in some extra dimension here and there. And then I just continue to add until I'm happy with it. Sometimes I think I overdo it, but ultimately, you know, it looks okay in the end. I do better with real flowers or like fake flowers than I do with, I don't know. Maybe it's just because the 2D just doesn't, I don't know. I feel like I struggle sometimes with it. At least personally, I struggle with it. I second guess and question my layout choices all the time when it comes to florals of any kind. And so leaves technically are kind of like a floral, right? Usually in florals we use leaves as filler, but when you're using your leaves as your, you know, you're kind of trying to. So trying to bring in some of the smaller pieces as well to kind of add pops of color here and there. I wanted to do, you know, kind of get all the colors in there, but also kind of stagger them and give me some different color options. I was struggling with the little piece down on the bottom. If I would have had a flower, like I'd have probably popped it right there on top of the leaves. I was like, it just, I don't know, didn't look finished to me, and I couldn't figure it out. But the done card looks fine. Like, I like how it finished it, or how it turned out. Sometimes it's about walking away, coming back to it later. I say it all the time, but in the moment I struggle and have a hard time like visioning, because what I have in my head doesn't always play out on paper, and so I'm disappointed with what's in my head is not on the paper canvas. And I know other people struggle from that one too, but you know, you're not alone. I definitely struggle with that one. Like, that's not exactly how it was in my head, and I don't know how to get it from my head to paper sometimes. A, sometimes it's just not feasible. B, you know, it's usually just, it doesn't always, you know, pan out the way I think it should pan out. But ultimately, I'm just going to add some of those little pieces in here. And then I did bring in a couple of those little teeny tiny dots. That's why I think this one would be really cute to do, like that background, and then just put a white piece of paper over the top that's got the leaves cut out of it. And I think it would be kind of pretty. But it comes with like all those little dots, all the things, right? So that was kind of how I came about to this point. And then of course I'm bringing back in that ephemera, because I did want to bring in some ephemera bits and pieces for this one. I may be telling you ahead of time that these pieces will come back into play in a future card. That's already been videoed. I just haven't gotten around to doing the edits and voiceovers. I have a queue in my stash that needs to get done. I've just been slacking on them all. But so I kind of pulled out some of the little strips in here that kind of had the sentiments on it. I didn't have to find a sentiment set. I love using those pre-done strips sometimes. And of course, if I can not pre-color them, if I can color them the way that I want them to be colored to go with exactly what I'm using, is an added bonus. So I did pull out one of the white ones. I think I might have pulled out two of the white ones, because I was thinking about doing 2 or 3 sentiments on this one, like adding, because I thought about adding a sentiment strip over the leaves, you know, that part that I really didn't love. And I was like, oh, I could maybe just add a sentiment down there. And so ultimately I decided to go on the top, but I'm just bringing in my blending brushes. I'm not adding any more ink to them. I'm just using the colors that were kind of on my blending brush. So I brought in a little bit of yellow, a little bit of orange, and a little bit of that red. And then I liked the color blend. It just kind of goes with the leaves. Yeah, see, I was like, I could put it there. I ended up deciding I like it kind of on the top part. And then I had picked up some glitter. I don't want to call it washi, but I guess it's probably washi. Some really thin glitter washi. I thought about bringing that black in. I ended up bringing in this glittery orange. It's not the stickiest stuff. Not gonna lie, it's lacking ultimately in the stick department. I would probably suggest adding a little bit, like a drop of glue at the start and the finish of it. I think my first piece was okay, but the black one that I used later on one of the other cards was not as sticky. So I just, you know, if you pick it up, that's just a heads up. So I'm going to pop up my actual sentiment strip on this one. Don't ask me which one I used. I think I used the thicker one on this one to kind of match the height of the leaves. And then I'm just going to put that over the top of that glitter piece. So using that glitter is kind of like a highlighter per se. And And so I am almost done. I'm just going to come back in with my black soot blending brush here and add a little bit of black soot all the way around the outside. I just think it kind of ties in with the little frame, so the bird in the frame where you have the black soot around it. And then of course I did add a little bit of black soot onto my leaves there as I was going around. It just kind of dirtied them up a little bit, I guess. Gave them a little bit of a sooty look, and I liked the look of that. So it kind of mutes them. I think that's what I was going for. I did not include the inside. For the inside, I just put ready to cause a scene, CAW, on the inside of the card for this one. I don't think I have a picture of it for you. So there it is. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I definitely had fun with the leaves and that picture frame die, and may have created, I think I have 2 other ones with just this color scheme. So keep getting inky. Hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day. Bye.